Sorare is the most fun and potentially rewarding pay-to-play football hobby there is, but there's nothing out there that really explains absolutely everything you need to know to, number one, understand the game and make a decision whether it's something you want to play or not. And number two, if you do decide to play it, what mistakes to avoid and the best practice to opening an account with as little mistakes as possible. So in this video, I just want to break everything down so you know everything that's going on, help you get ahead as quickly as possible, and just make sure you get all the free stuff that you need to get in the beginning. Okay. We'll get back to the video in just a quick second. I've been making content helping people get started with Sorare for the last 2 years, and thankfully the content has helped thousands of people. Down to the support I've had back for you guys, the channel's managed to grow and expand, and we've taken on a studio, and I'm hoping throughout the rest of the year 2022 I can bring you guys the best football, the best Sorare content possible. For the last 2 years, Sorare have been massive fans of the content, and the support they've given us is down to the link in the description of this video. If you haven't opened your account yet, Sorare give all of my viewers a free card for signing up using that link in the description. All you need to do is click the link, sign up directly. Once you've bought 5 from the market, you get a free card from Sorare. You can sell it, you can keep it, you can do whatever you want with it. Huge fans of the channel. Fanatics.com, one of the biggest retailers in the world of sports goods, whether it be NFL, NBA, football, shirts, tracksuits, hoodies, all officially licensed, and they want to support the content, they want to support the channel by giving you guys, the audience, special exclusive discounts to all of these items and many more. If you are going to buy any sportswear this year, then using that link in the description goes directly to supporting the content here at Quinny 3001 and Sorare TV. And I can't thank you enough for your continued support, guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of this video, and I'll see you on the next one. So we'll just be talking about what's going on here, Sorare, NFTs, licenses, all that kind of shebang. Just cover everything in the foundation just to make sure we're all on the same page with the game and how it works. Then we'll talk about the play and the earn stuff. How do you first come up with a market strategy? What's the difference between holding and flipping cards? We'll talk about active and passive strategies. What's a handcuff, a stack, a false super rare, all of that. Then I want to go over how do you actually analyze a player. This is where things get fun. So now you need to work out what's undervalued and what's overvalued, or whether a player is even worth holding at all. I'll show you Sorare data, the QV, my free spreadsheet, a bunch of other stuff. We'll then talk about how to actually buy a card and how you get the free cards. So this will be like, you know, deposit methods to use. Is your bank okay? How do you withdraw money? How do you get the best price possible? Then we'll wrap up with some mistakes you just don't want to make, especially if you're a newer player and or you've just got a tight budget for disposable income. You need to avoid costly mistakes. What happens to a lot of people, myself included, is you find the game, get excited, then you do some dumb things, and then you get angry and don't enjoy the game as much. So I'll help you avoid all that. So let's just jump right into it. Sorare, what is it? Why does it exist? Why does anyone care? And why am I having so much fun playing it? So the first thing you need to understand before really getting to know what Sorare is and the structure of it and what makes it up and what makes it so unique is you need to understand the people that are currently playing it and what's given it so much value, okay? So the current people that watch my videos certainly, and the people I engage with in the platform, traditionally, typically, are over the age of 20, 25, okay? 25 and over, 20 and over, that kind of thing. So these people, myself included, I'm 33, believe it or not, I've grown up with football through maybe some of them in the 80s, the 90s, the early millennium, all the way up to today's football. We've seen this evolution, we've seen this development of football engagement with extra statistics, more coverage, more camera angles, more actual leagues covered on terrestrial and, you know, pay television, YouTube. You can watch the whole Russian league. All this access is coming more and more and more. Football is very much the language of the world over the last like 20 years. So there's plenty of football fans out there across the world that grew up playing LMA Manager and Premier Manager on the PlayStation 1, or moving into PC gaming with Championship Manager and Football Manager, playing next generation consoles with Pro Evolution and FIFA, breastfed on Total Galazzo Italian football on Channel 4, you know, going through high school, going through your adulthood, watching Match of the Day, engaging with players, really supporting your team, really getting to know that player that played for somebody else that you actually liked, and you end up following their whole career, maybe through computer games or maybe through real life, that kind of thing. So there's an obvious tie-in there to a lot of existing urges, cravings, hotspots that football fans have already been exhibiting and kind of crying out for the last like 20 odd years or so. So with all that in the background, what then comes along is NFT technology. Now that stands for non-fungible token, okay? If you want to know the ins and outs, the length and the breadth of it, the full history of NFTs, this is not the channel. There's plenty of other stuff you can go and find out there. They'll explain all the mechanics of that to you. But what the NFT technology does is it allows for digital items that were previously just lines of code in FIFA Ultimate Team 21 or whatever it might be, to now becoming on the blockchain a certified digital scarce item. Okay, so Sorare come along. They realize this technology exists. They've Nicholas and the guys that run the team are very much like me and you, the person I've just kind of described in terms of that football fan growing up and really wanting that next level global digital engagement where you can say the best players at your team. You could be in Holland, you could be in anywhere across the world, and you can mix and match your players with people from all over the world. Your favorite players you only get to see on television, to the local players you get to see in your domestic competition, whatever it might be. They've taken that urge, they've taken that idea, merged it with the NFT technology, and then what they've done is they've went out and they've acquired official licenses for all the cards that they issue. Okay, so what that means to me, right, and what it means to you, is this football shirt is officially licensed. I buy it from the club make money, I get the shirt, I know it's real, it costs like 3 times the price of a fake or something, but I like it, it's what I spend my recreational, my hobby money on. And these cards are no different. It's officially licensed merch from each of the clubs in question. And when you couple that in with the NFT technology, you have an item now that is a tradable football card. So Sorare manufacture and sell NFT football trading cards, which are just digital trading cards. They then administer and host a fantasy football tournament for their cards to be played. And that's not exclusive to Sorare Native or the main Sorare website. There's plenty of third-party websites always spinning up, looking for that extra fan engagement that football brings, especially through Sorare at the moment, and into their website, into their domain, whatever it might be, whether it be Sorare Data, Sorare Mega, Sorare Brag. So why are they worth so much money? Why are huge investment companies like Benchmark and Softbank putting their hand in their pocket and breaking records to go and invest in them at their Series A and their Series B funding? And there's a lot of different reasons, but for me, one of the main ones is Sorare is a very typical growth company. Growth companies in their first 3 to 5 years, the main objective is to grow to critical mass as quickly as possible and maintain that kind of maximum capacity sort of idea. And Sorare have been doing that at a great speed over the last 3 years. But the difference with Sorare versus a lot of these other growth companies that you've probably seen in the past, places like Uber and, Airbnb and whatever, is a lot of these companies have to put hand over fist. They need to spend more than they make for so long before they cut a profit. Sorare's overheads for the last 3 years has been like the wages of 20 people, computer servers in an office, and gas fees. They cover all the gas fees on the platform, which is incredible. So for them to raise the money they have, 50 million from Benchmark and over 650 million from Softbank, plus in 2021, they reported sales of around $320 million. They're in a fantastic financial position and they're still in the first 3 to 4 years of their growth phase into critical mass. The NFT technology is 100% the next wave of digital entertainment for computer games, in my opinion. Some people have got much more grandiose ideas of what NFTs might become. For me, first and foremost, it's a game utility. I want to be able to play Rainbow Six Siege or Assassin's Creed or any of these games that you might play at home or whatever. And if I unlock something cool, it's an item. It's a real thing. I could show you it on my phone. I can take it into the next game. I could sell it to somebody else who's shite at the game and can't unlock it, And that, coupled with football and what Sorare are starting to do now with the licenses, with the partners that they're getting, the La Liga, the Bundesliga, all the clubs around the world they're partnered with, is getting the fan engagement up a level. They want to do more experiences and giveaways, whether it be in with your local team or signed like Bayern Munich shirt or, these kind of things, special edition cards, whatever. And his good friend of the channel, John Nellis, has always kind of said, it really is set up to become the social media of football. We've got real players, current professionals with an active account that are buying and trading players, entering tournaments as we speak right now, as well as former players coming on as ambassadors and investors. The people that are really involved in the business of football fully believe in this and they're really going for it. And for me, with it being officially licensed merchandise that is provably scarce, and I have proof of ownership of these items, it honestly just ticks such a massive box. For me, when I first came across Sorare, and I discovered all of what I've just explained to you, I was like, yes, I can find that wonder kid when he's 18, buy his card, I know he's not going to play for ages, and then in 5-6 years time, puff the chest out. Guess who knew it all along? Guess who knew that guy was going to kill? And that's really what the NFT part does. If you've ever played Football Manager or FIFA Ultimate Team, you'll know exactly what I mean. You pull that bronze, you pull that silver card, you find a guy that you've sent your scout to some random place you've never sent him before, and he's came back with this random kid that no one's heard of before, but he's an absolute killer. If you've ever had that experience and then wished you could have some sort of payoff from it, in terms of the ownership of, that kind of decision or that effort you've went into for scouting or the deep dive you've done or whatever, then this is it. The play and earn dynamic in Sorare is definitely the one that appeals to the most people when they first come in. Everyone gets all these kind of dreams of jumping into the market and buying a guy so cheap, and then he goes off on a run and gets a big transfer and they sell them for buckets load more than what they bought them for, or assembling a team for next to nothing, or maybe you just go out and buy your best players and finishing top, showing everyone that you've killed it on fantasy football. You win an R card, it's an absolute beast, you get an EVE prize, that kind of thing. But unfortunately, as much as that's the one we all get excited about, it's the one that most people are the least prepared for. As soon as you open your account, you get your hands on your commons. I spent a week before I spent any money on the platform just messing about with commons, figuring out the scoring system, what cards were available, who I knew already, that kind of thing. So I recommend you do that first and foremost. And while you're doing that, you start to formulate an understanding of, number one, what your budget is going to carry it into the market with, what you can actually get, and what you can actually achieve in whatever time scale you're looking at. The game element is easy enough to understand. It's a global five-a-side game. You can pick players from anywhere in the world in any of the licensed clubs and leagues that are available on the platform and enter them into any of the competitions you have cards available for. Those cards have to be one goalkeeper, one defender, one midfielder, one striker, and then you get an extra spot. You can pick any position other than a goalkeeper. You select a captain, they get an extra 20% bonus, and then all your guys will make a score on match day if they play between 0 and 100, okay? The data for that score is provided by Opta, one of the largest data providers for football statistics in the world, and the scoring matrix is Sorare's own native scoring matrix. It is probably the most robust and dynamic scoring matrix I've ever came across for a game like this. It's not perfect, but it's very fair and treats a lot of players appropriately for their match day contribution. All the cards in your strategy are going to fall into one of two buckets. They're either going to be trading cards or they're going to be holding cards, okay? Now, there's a real difference between trading and holding. Trading is, I'm looking to buy a card today, tomorrow, within the next month that I can sell within the next season, within the next calendar year for a profit. Holding is buying the card because you really believe in it, whether it be you want to take them on a career prospect and, watch them go through transfers and break into national teams and make Champions League debuts and all that kind of thing, or, maybe they fail. It does happen as well. Or you really just love watching the guy play football today and you want him in your fantasy football team for the next year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever. Buying cards when you really have like some sort of personal attachment to them for your collection, or they offer you some sort of fundamental utility for the gameplay as well, whether it be a U23 goalkeeper, a striker in a different region, maybe it's just one of your favourite players and they're amazing at scoring on the game and you just love having them as part of your team. But that's what holding cards is about, is getting the ones you want, you like. I do both, you'll probably do both as well, but what's fundamental with understanding this first and foremost is you need to know what card, when you're buying it, what contribution are they making towards your strategy? Are they a card you're going to hold and it's just like, listen, this guy plays and he will play forever, I can plug and play him into Champ Euro? Or is it a card I'm buying now because I know it's like a striker that's out of favour and he's out of contract in the summer and he's probably going to get a big transfer? That kind of thing. So there's lots of different trade strategies. You've got like day trading, swing trading, momentum trading, lots of different things where basically you're finding a guy on the market, whether it be a limited or a rare or whatever it might be, where you think they're undervalued and they're about to pop. They're really going to either break out and start hitting big scores, or maybe they're just going to get into the team. They're going to have some sort of situation change or a transfer. Their price is going to rise and you can sell for a big profit. Now, for me, this is very high risk and it's something I do practice in moderation, but it's far too risky and I've had it backfire on me enough times to know when to kind of pick my battles with when I do trades like that. Lots of people put a lot of time, energy and resources into trading on the Sorare market and they do pretty well, I must admit, but it's just not my cup of tea. I'm much more of a holder. I like getting guys that I fall in love with on the football pitch. I love watching them. I've watched that guy since he was at this club. Now he's transferred through 2 or 3 others. That kind of thing. Or it's a youth prospect that's come up. It's a guy I used to play with in FIFA, or they're cards that give me enjoyment to put into fantasy football. I like backing them every week. I like engaging on social media about them. I like watching their matches. I love seeing their goals. That's more what I'm about. Now, naturally, good players always rise in value, depending on how long you hold them. So both, that's what I'm saying. almost everyone does both of these things. You probably will do both as well, but it's just understanding the when and the who. You know, when are you doing it and who are you doing it with? Like there's lots of different types of trading, there's also different types of holding. Basically, cards you hold, again, are just going to fall into one of two buckets. They're either going to be dynamic or they're going to be static. So you will hold a bunch of cards in your club that will be dynamic. They're going to enter SO5 for you every game week, and they're going to help you up the leaderboard. They're going to help you capture rewards, thresholds, whatever you're chasing down. Then you're going to have static cards that you hold. These are guys that are not in the first team. They're backup goalkeepers. They're injured. They've transferred into a rural territory that's not got SO5, and you're waiting on that situation changing. You're holding them for, you know, the foreseeable. For me, holding is really more than a season or a calendar year, depending on how long term you can cast your mind. You know, some people football wise, that is just season to season. But for me, somebody you're going to hold is definitely somebody you see yourself having beyond a season minimum, a calendar year minimum. And some of these guys, you'll foresee yourself having them for 10 years. You know, it's something we often say. What's probably the most underused element of everyone's strategy is their passive part, you know, is their part that's going to be static, because even though the cards you're going to hold that are static, they don't all need to be inactive players. You know, they can be ones that you just know blind. I'm always going to have a Lewandowski, I'm always going to have an Oblak, I'm always going to want a Depay or a Van Dijk or whoever it is that you really like. It doesn't matter that they're 30, they're the best player in the world in their position and you love them. Those guys don't require a lot of maintenance, and when you're getting into Sorare especially, it can take up a lot of your energy. It can take up a lot of your time. You need to have your finger on the pulse. You're buying a goalkeeper because he's played the last 2 games, but he's only had 40 appearances in his career and he's like 32. You know, you need to really know what's happening week to week, day to day with that situation. Has he been dropped again? Is the guy that he's just replaced came back to form or came back to favour? Was he suspended? That, you know, will just plug and play and they can just go into the club. There's a lot to be said for the value that they give you as a manager, as a club owner, you know, in terms of the lack of headspace they require to manage. There's a few techniques that you can implement to both sides of this, whether it's cards you're holding or cards that you're going to be trading with, okay? They're common kind of buzzwords. You're going to hear them about the place if you're involved in Discord and Twitter and all these kind of things. The first one is handcuffing. Now, I wish I heard about this as soon as I started, okay? So as you'll discover when you get into the marketplace, goalkeepers at any level of scarcity are not cheap. They're all very expensive. It's basically down to the virtue of football. There is only one goalkeeper in each team. Subsequently, there's fewer of them in a football squad. Subsequently, there's less supply. You need one for your teams. It's a high demand situation. So handcuffing, what that basically means is you've went out, you've acquired the goalkeeper, the guy that is going to get you rocking on the leaderboards. He's going to validate your team. Now you've got a rare, unlimited, might just be a really good common goalkeeper. It's finally going to transform and set you on your way. But then he gets injured, he gets sick, or he falls out of favour, he has a fight with the manager. These things have happened and they do happen. What are you going to do? So what the handcuff is you basically buy the backups of your number one. So even if your Donnarumma wasn't to play next game week, you have Keylor Navas. Now it's also high risk because who knows who's going to play game to game, week to week on that one. There's plenty of other handcuffs out there that are much more affordable, and it's definitely a practice that once you're in that situation of picking up goalkeepers, you should definitely be mindful of. Handcuffs can actually pay off without any bad circumstances happening. It might be the number 2 goalkeeper you've picked up for the handcuff. Maybe he's quite a young guy. Maybe he goes out on loan and then all of a sudden, boom, you've got 2 goalkeepers that are playing. Or maybe the number 1 guy that you've got anyway, maybe he's an international goalkeeper and he goes away to represent his country. Your handcuff, guess who's stepping up to fill his spot while he's away? If it's maybe an MLS goalkeeper, because sometimes these other regions outside of Europe, they will play domestic football through international windows on occasion. So that can be a valuable detail to be aware of. Another one is stacking. Okay, now what stacking is it's a kind of active and a passive strategy all at once. It's basically you're deciding to follow a couple of teams, maybe one team, and really just buy a bunch of cards from that stable that you've just identified. And then it gives you less maintenance to do when it comes to managing fixtures, looking ahead, do I have a team this weekend or not? And then actually tracking the football, who's in good form, who's playing well, who's the manager picking. Me personally, one of the things that I love about Sorare is that I can throw everyone together. You know, I can have an MLS goalkeeper, a J-League defender, a midfielder from the Bundesliga, a midfielder from La Liga, and then put a striker from Brazil. up front, you know, in the Brazilian league or something. That's what gets me going. That's what I love about Sorare, you know. But the stacking element works very well if you're playing things by numbers. You can easily pick up guys that correlate well. The most obvious one is when Bayern Munich win, Lewandowski, Kimmich, Müller, all these guys all score incredibly well because they always take part in the victories. And then you've got cards like what I call the false super rare. So you've got some guys out there that are just so good on the matrix and the way they perform that they always perform at the top end of the leaderboards. They're always the players that are carrying people up into the top 20, the top 10, these types of places. The reason I call it the false super rares is because these guys can operate really successfully in the pro division as well as just the regular rare division. But as time goes on and as we expect more divisions will open up, we're going to see more of those parallels with different cards. So if you're looking at commons, limited, rares, super rares, there's all these types of players out there that if you have them at the right scarcity, they can really be very useful across a lot of different divisions for you, different regions as well. Those guys often become centerpiece items of your team that you'll captain every week or you'll build the team around. And it cannot be understated that if you're not actively looking out for these guys, or if you do capture one or two of them, make sure you value them correctly because they are ones that will make the biggest difference in those really tight game weeks between you finishing in a tier 2 or a tier 1 spot to getting you into the tier 1 and the star tier bracket. Now, no matter what your strategy is, there's a few fundamentals there's just no getting away from. The first thing is you have to track what you're doing in the marketplace, okay? Unfortunately, the transaction history it's on Sorare itself at the moment leaves a lot to be desired. So linked in the description of this video, there's a link to another video called Free Spreadsheet. In that video, I set you up with getting a free spreadsheet all to yourself to set up to manage your account, to track how you're doing, manage your performance, to optimize it to the best level possible. Right next to that link, you'll see another video for something called the QV. That's basically a scoring mechanism that I've devised. It's going to help you identify the hotspots in the Sorare secondary market, as well as what is a good bunch of auctions to be looking at as well. Now, the next thing that you're going to have to become intimately familiar with is Sorare data. Now, Sorare data is the mecca of API websites. It has all the correlated and aggregated data you could possibly wish to have at the edge of your fingertips, whether it be pricing history, market trends, SO5 scores, similar players on SO5 scores, and you can kind of look at the pricing and work out what's the best bang for your buck, that kind of thing. It's a fantastic website. I cannot speak highly enough of all the work and all the generosity that they do in providing free content of this nature to Sorare managers like me and you around the world. You've got your strategy, you've got your QV, you've got your free spreadsheet, you're logged into Sorare data. How do you decide if a player is overvalued or undervalued, or even if you should even bother with them at all? Okay, now, strategy aside, okay, there's a few things that you always want to be looking out for. Now, we spoke earlier about handcuffs and stacking and false super rares, that kind of thing. Those types of policies, those types of and strategies are very useful, but sometimes they can murk the waters. You know, sometimes you'll get a defender that's, let's say he's slightly above average, but he's got a fantastic goalkeeper next to him, and he also just happens to be the best defender in that goalkeeper's team. Then because that's a goalkeeper defender stack that some people out there might, or a fair amount of people out there might find appealing, you might find that defender's price is ever so slightly inflated versus a counterpart of a player in a similar standing. And when it comes to the perspective like false super rare, like the rare card that is just so powerful, it can go into any division for you and compete. Sometimes those guys are very form dependent, you know, so some guys just come out of nowhere and they have a hot month, they bang in 5 goals and get 10 assists or something crazy, and they fly away, and then they maybe never really repeat that form again. But there's some guys up there that are tried and tested, you know, and they compete at the top end of the game. But they are something, again, that can murk the waters when you're trying to decide, is this guy overvalued or undervalued? For me, if it's overvalued, I do get that feeling where I'm like, oh, should I really be spending this much Ethereum, this much pounds, however you're thinking about it, on this particular player for what the strategy kind of is unfolding around them for? You know, is it a trade? Yeah, how am I going to sit on it? How risky is it? Once I'm asking myself too many questions about a trade, there's a high probability that it's overvalued, okay? Now, equally, on the reverse of it, when do you decide that something's undervalued? Now, unfortunately, the price isn't always the real value of it, and that can come back to overvalue, I suppose, as well. But for me, like, there's some cards that when they became available, because I've been here for the last 2 years and watched Sorare bring on new clubs like AC Milan, Real Madrid, Liverpool, PSG, the list goes on. And when those big clubs have come on for the first time, there's always been a player or two, and a few of them, where I'm like, I would have bought him if that team is here from the minute I opened my account. And, you know, the value of it, I will try and make an approximation based on current market rate for a player of a similar standing in the same position, and then just try and get the best value I possibly can for me. Those cards, like I mentioned before, I'm a holder. So when I'm getting a card like that, I am really hoping to have it for a year plus, you know, in terms of the utility. And you've followed the guy's career, you know, watch him go into the World Cup or Champions League or win the league or whatever it is. So for me, the value, as long as I feel comfortable in the transaction and I know what I'm getting with those guys, I've already made my mind up. I would have bought them before they come on the platform, if that makes sense. But for you, there'll be people, you can just open your account today and you've got everything at the edge of your fingertips. You can get your favorite players, money aside. You can pretty much just build the dream team that you want to. When you think about Sorare, when you've heard about it for the first time, global five-a-side fantasy football, the first thing you would have thought about was, I'd have that guy in goals, I'd have that guy at the back. Those guys, if it's a limited or rare, whatever your budget is, always try and get those guys that you first thought of, the guys that you're always attached to. And as long as, you know, you can see yourself parting with the money to have an officially licensed football card that's playable in fantasy football of that player, then I quite often come away from those transactions feeling like I've got something undervalued because I have a much greater value in the things that I happen to collect and gather. The thing you need to watch out when it comes to valuation, particularly on Sorare data when you're using historic pricing, is to always bear in mind that there's a couple of factors that play with pricing. You've also got the demand on the Sorare market for the player. Maybe they've been limit print, you know, and what that means is maybe they were at Valencia 2 seasons ago, but then they transferred around the place. They've not had a Sorare card until now. They're at Wolfsburg, and Wolfsburg have just been licensed, so now they have a card. So they've got a Valencia card from 2 years ago. Now all of a sudden they've got a Wolfsburg card. Now his historic pricing might have been really high because the demand was so low, but now the floodgates have opened with new supply, and you might find if you pay attention to the market and you kind of let it settle, you might find that price might actually come down. So there's a lot of details around the pricing and how to understand and interpret the pricing history. So I would always take all of that information. You have to take it first of all, and then contextualize it as best you possibly can. Cross-reference with other players in different positions and try and work out why this seems to be way more expensive than something else. Is there something I'm missing here? Is he a national team player? Is he U23 longer than the next 2 or 3 people that are in the rankings next to him? And if he's undervalued, you need to be, in your mind, extra cautious, because if you think he's undervalued, you're seeing he's getting like a good scoring track record, or he's got a new manager and he's a real grit box-to-box midfielder and they're really going to hit it off and play well together. But the price doesn't really reflect what you're seeing. Is he injured? Has he fallen out with the manager? Is he got a long-term suspension? Is he imminently about to transfer off the planet and not be scoreable in SO5? If you really think something is undervalued, then you need to go the extra step and really make sure that you've not missed something, because sometimes it is the detail that will kill you on these ones. We never rush in when we think something's overvalued and think, oh wow, it's so expensive, something must be happening, I'll just go and buy them. When you see somebody overvalued, you will always go and do that due diligence. And unfortunately, not enough people will pause for the cause and go and investigate when something feels undervalued. They get a bit of FOMO and they think, I better buy this now before somebody else sees it. Snap. Sometimes it pays off, quite often it backfires. And there's some guys out there that you're going to buy that you should never have bought. It's going to happen. You're going to buy those guys. Everyone does it, okay? Now, for me, the QV is a great tool to help me decide whether I'm actually going to get somebody in, but I'll take you right back, guys. It's your initial strategy, that core, that seed of what you're playing the game for, what your objectives are, what path you see yourself going down. That has really got to be your 10 commandments, you know, of really the sort of players you're bringing into the club and the sort of money you're looking to spend to bring those guys into the club. And sometimes a new card will come out, it's a new faces auction, a new club gets licensed, something like that. And then this guy that everyone's talking about in your wee group chat, or everyone's talking about on Twitter, this is the next big guy, he's about to take off, his auctions later on, no one's noticed it, none of the whales have seen it yet. And then they jump in, they dive in. And then 3 months go by, he's not playing. 6 months go by, no one's transferring him. And then you're like, oh crap, I spent a quarter of a coin on this guy, or a third, or you know, whatever it is. And he's just been dead weight, and capital appreciation is negative, if anything, and I wish I never done that. So it's always important that the actual guys you're bringing in, like I've said a few times already, they're going to go into a couple of different buckets. You have to know exactly what the purpose is of that purchase. None of the purchases you're going to make on Sorare, guys, are small. They're actually quite sizable, and to make purchases like that frivolously, like honestly, I just don't get it. You know, for me, it's always about do the extra, make sure it's the right thing for you and your club. You don't need to buy everyone. Now, every player gets a unique, which is 1. They get a super rare, which is 10. They get a rare, which is 100. And they get a limited, which is 1,000. They get that allocation every season they're licensed on Sorare. Each one of those scarcities has different powers and capabilities and utilities for you to go into the game. And subsequently, they've got a whole array of market dynamics around them, including supply and demand, as well as upcoming fixtures and game utility for special weeklies, as well as different competitions. But the most confusing thing about all of them is how they're priced, okay? Now, unfortunately, there's no concrete straight line you can draw between, you know, and I've heard some people say things before, and there's some things out there that have a degree of credibility about them. You know, like a rare to super rare maybe is about 4x in price. A rare limited to rare is maybe something like 3x, that kind of thing. But by and large, it's not an exact science, and I don't recommend you use that as a wide-ranging barometer. Now, again, in micro situations, that kind of thing can pay off quite well. If you see a super rare that's knocking about for 10 ETH or 7 ETH or 5 ETH or whatever, and it's just a mega super rare, all the whales want it, it's going into all the D1 divisions and whatever, but the rare is like way out of sync with an equivalent super rare, then that could be an opportunity for you to get a rare in. Might not be, it could be valuable for the market. It could be something you could flip around later on. But if that's the situation, there must be some SO5 potential in there as well, you know, so there will be something going on. Equally for me, sometimes I look at a rare and I think, like, I would love to get that guy into the club. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's going to have a big breakout season. And this is probably the year I want to pick him up before he breaks out. Or maybe the guy's, he's just starting to catch form and I might miss a boat on this one. But rares are expensive, you know. I'm always quite happy to buy a limited. So if you're maybe looking for a super rare and you miss out on it, or you're looking for a rare and you miss out on it, there's always another level down below where sometimes, guys, it's better to get something of them than nothing before the boat goes and you get that real, I wish I bought that guy. Don't be snobby, be a bit colorblind with it, you know, just because it's a limited. Maybe you don't play limited too much. Maybe you're just going to stick to rare or super rare, that kind of thing. Just having a card of a guy you love, I wouldn't worry about the scarcity of it. When it comes to the actual player analysis, that is the most fun part for me, is actually watching football, getting a glimpse of, do you know what, I need another midfielder in my Champion Euro squad, or I'm needing to get an extra forward for Champion America, watching a couple of games, maybe watching some highlight packages, listening to some podcasts, learning a bit more and trying to find that guy to plug into my team. That is always the best way to analyze players, is actually by watching them. Looking at data, diving through apps and all that kind of stuff is great, and it can definitely give you a by numbers insight into a player or into a situation. But the amount of times people will buy somebody having never watched them play football and just base them on their last 5 and their last 10, and then it turns out they were just a bit fluky or something, you know, and then they get dropped for no real reason that you can tell, and then you're landed with, you know, a useless player all of a sudden. Always, guys, make sure you're really getting in to watching the players. Do the analysis for yourself. Really get a taste of who they are, what they're all about. What's their standing in the team? What's the coach thinking about them? You know, does he play them often? Does he bring them on to clutch the game and win it at the end? Does he start the big matches? And I could spend the rest of this video telling you about the sort of players I like, the players I like to analyse, and the players I like to bring into my team, whether it be like box-to-box midfielders or decisive capable, or whether it be defenders that are decisive capable. FC Barcelona is my club. We're all about decisives. We're all about attacking and going for a goal. But I'm not going to do that. Like I said, the analysis you're going to undertake, all you need is the tools and a strategy. And as long as you've got those things firmly in hand and you're sticking to them, you won't go too far wrong. Rares are by far and away the cards with the most utility at point of recording on the platform. They're playable in the most divisions. They play for the ETH threshold, which is the basic beating the game prize that everyone aspires to go for when they open their account, basically. And as I say, they can play in the special weekly. They can go up 2 divisions above themselves. No other card can do that. And they offer you the most SO5 longevity. Now, that might change in the future with limited. There's a high suspicion amongst the community, myself included, that things will change. But until they do, you can only play with the cards you're dealt. The great thing about the utility you get from super rares is they can quickly supplement you in the rare pro division and really help you start winning really good cards. Super rares, once you get enough of them, you are going to want to make that move into the super rare division itself. And, you know, depends on your wallet and your success, maybe even above that, who knows. But the thing with super rares from the market opportunity that they give you is there's much less of them. So as time goes on and more cards are issued, you know, new season, new issue for 10 super rares, 100 rares, 1,000 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 and 1,000 limiteds. The super rare division is occupied by the players with the biggest wallet playing for the biggest prizes, and with there being so much less super rares in comparison to, of course, limiteds, but even at that, rares, really good ones always demand a premium. Under 23 market, the Vinicius Souza has been absolute tear. People were picking him up for £350 before the new year and selling him now for over 4 ETH, which at time of recording would be around the £10,000 mark. But if you're just buying limiteds and you're just starting out with rares, the actual SO5 utility a super rare is going to give you is going to be limited to the special weekly, where you can win more super rares, but it being a super rare doesn't really do anything for you. So unless you're certain it's a good market play for you to trade on, I wouldn't be buying super rares until you're ready to actually compete and use them. And when it comes to limiteds, they can only go into one division per region, which is very limiting for them. So when I'm going into limiteds personally, I'm just kind of like buying them as like card in-game items, so that I can play SO5 with the other guys that I really like, that I'm really falling in love with their career, but I've not got the money to go and get a rare or a super rare of them. I think the limited side of things is only going to expand and become much more fun and much more engaging. And as we're seeing, limiteds are getting included more and more in the special weekly, which is another place you can win super rares. So as this year rolls on, any kind of shortcoming you feel limiteds have as the year pans out, I think that gap and disparity between the lack of utility and the lack of variety available with the limiteds versus rares, I think that gap is going to narrow over the year, so I wouldn't worry so much about that. Part of it, when you're analysing a player and you're looking at the pricing and you're thinking, are they overvalued or are they undervalued? A big part of that is you trying to time the market as best you possibly can to get the best bang for buck possible. But with a strategy in mind that you've laid out, and you might even go as far as to list the players you're actually looking to go on, the non-negotiables, you are definitely buying that goalkeeper. You are definitely going to trade in that midfielder as soon as you've got the opportunity. And if you're going to have a passive strategy and you've got a very rigid list, then it can give you a lot of freedom to just passively be in the market. You're not going to be trading up and down with different dips in form and fixture. You're just waiting for that guy's market to get quiet and try and pick him up. Now, in terms of SO5, you will run really slow for a long time, quietly, one at a time, accruing your cards. But that patience play can really help pay off, because there's going to be a lot of volatility in the market when like different regions end their season, when new competitions become available, when new clubs come back on, as well as any fluctuation in currency. So how do I actually buy cards is a question I get all the time. The first thing you do, you hit that link in the description down below, you sign up, you want to get your free card for buying 5 in the market. What people do to start off with is they'll go into the auctions and they'll use their debit card to place the auctions there. There's no fees for doing so other than what your bank charges you for converting your native currency into euros. Now, personally, the bank I use is Monzo. There's a link in the description down below. It's a basic refer a friend link. You'll get one when you open an account with Monzo as well for £5. So you'll get a fiver and I'll get a fiver. They don't charge virtually anything on the exchange rate from my native currency, pounds, to euros. Please read the T's and C's to make sure that's a benefit to you as well. And if it is, there's a link down there. You get free £5 and I get a free £5. Now be warned, don't use your bank card to do a secondary market transfer. That means buying a card from another manager. Sorare will charge you a 10% surcharge for doing so. Virtually no one does this. It is a big rookie mistake and I wouldn't want you to make it. If you are going to be going into the secondary market, the most cost-effective way is to load your Ethereum wallet on Sorare via Ramp. It's a native facility. It's on Sorare itself. You just click on the little wallet icon and it takes you through step by step how to sign up, make the account, do the security verification, authorize the bank, all that kind of stuff. They do charge you fees for doing all of this. They take the money out your bank, buy Ethereum for you and put it into your Sorare wallet. So please make sure you're staying aware of all the fees you're accruing for those Ramp transactions. I'd always rather do 1 rather than 4. What I do personally is I stash money up in my Coinbase account and acquire Ethereum that way, just through an actual crypto market. And then when I'm ready to actually bring the Ethereum onto Sorare, I use my crypto wallet. Now, even if you don't plan on depositing this way, it is the primary method of withdrawal, okay? Linked in the description down below is a video called How to Withdraw, where I do it all on my phone and I show you exactly how it all works step by step. Withdrawing crypto, playing with crypto for the first time is very scary, it's very daunting. The transactions are not instant and it does get scary. So these videos are here just to help you make sure you don't make any critical mistakes that could, go badly for you. The other way you can load your wallet is through an external crypto wallet, okay? Now, even if you're not interested in buying crypto and doing wallets and all that kind of thing, unfortunately, it is the primary method of withdrawal. If that sounds scary and daunting to you, I've got a video, it's linked in the description down below. It's called How to Withdraw, where I've got a screen record on my mobile phone and I show you exactly how to do it step by step all the way. To make any withdrawals or you're going to deposit through this method, you're going to need access to a crypto wallet that will allow you to transact your Ethereum into your native currency and deposit back into your bank. There's a link in the description down below. If you open a Coinbase account with that link, me and you get $10 worth of Bitcoin for free. It's not much, but it's something for free for an account you'll need to open anyway. Thankfully, we've covered a few of the common mistakes already in the video, but in case you've just jumped to this part, we'll cover the two that have just came up. Number one, do not buy cards on the secondary market with your bank card. Sorare will give you a 10% surcharge, and yeah, don't do that. The second one is make sure you hit that link in the description down below before you open your account. The amount of people that message me and say, Quinny, I've opened my account, I've bought my 5 cards, but I've not received a free one. They then reach out to Sorare and Sorare reveal they haven't actually clicked on someone's link. Make sure you hit that link in the description down below. Sign up directly to make sure you qualify. You can check it on the Refer a Friend page on Sorare and it should say your referrer, Quinny. Okay, the biggest common mistake most people will make that we've not spoke about already is not using Discord. If you don't have Discord, you've never been on it before, you need to get on it. Every Sorare club page, if the manager has Discord and or Twitter, those accounts are linked on the page so you can actually contact people directly and get into negotiations. Maybe they've listed somebody for an amount of money you just don't have, but you've got some cards that would equate in value. Maybe you can work out some sort of trade, do some horse trade and that kind of thing. The next one is fat thumb listing, okay? So Sorare cards, by and large, are expensive things. If you are listing your cards for sale or dealing with offers that are coming in, whether to accept or reject, and you're coming off the bus, you're trying to cook your dinner, you're trying to deal with the kids, you're trying to do other things at the same time, you could accidentally do something terrible, like list something that's worth thousands of pounds for hundreds of pounds, or accept a bid that is worth nothing for a card that is worth something. So make sure whenever you're making any of these key actions on Sorare, you're undistracted, you've got time and space, you're not like crammed in somewhere. You can actually see very clearly the buttons you're pressing, the numbers you're selecting, and the actions you're taking. The amount of times people do something on a whim and they think, oh yeah, I'll just reject that, accidentally accept it, or they list something for below market price is incredible. Now, Sorare have put in a lot of fail safes to make sure these things happen less and less to the point of zero, but I would urge you to never do any of these things when you're preoccupied. And then the last one is just not getting all the extra free stuff as well. Like I've already mentioned, there's links in the description down below for Monzo, so you can get a free $5 for having a debit card that charges you very competitive, virtually nothing rates on conversion into euros. Also, there's a link down there for Coinbase, so you can get a little bit of Bitcoin to get yourself started for free. All these things support the channel, guys. Fanatics.com are supporting the channel. If you're looking to buy football tops, tracksuits, all that kind of stuff, there's a link down there that'll get you a discount. And then the last common mistake I'd probably leave you with is one that I really want you to think about. Most people's first goalkeeper they buy is the cheapest playing goalkeeper they can get their hands on. The difference in quality between the cheapest and like the fourth cheapest can be quite significant. The difference in price in relative terms might not be. So when you are getting to that point of getting your first goalkeeper, make sure it's a purchase you're not going to regret very quickly after, because it's a crap goalkeeper that's only scoring 35 points because he can't keep a clean sheet. And in reality, he's not really that much better than your common Courtois or Alisson that you've managed to pick up from the casual league. It's about a purchase that is going to stay with you and really give your club a bit of buoyancy when you're getting up and going. Thanks very much, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. On screen there now is some other stuff I've made YouTube thinks you might like. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share and retweet, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.